What are you allowing into your body, mind, energy, and your life? And what if there's something you haven't learned yet that could change everything? Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions Publishing, where we are helping the world experience what's possible. And here today to help me with that mission are a couple of the amazing authors of one of our newest books. This one is called The Simple Spiritual Guide to Clean Living. And I'm going to give you guys a little sneak peek of the cover here. Practices for healing, growth, and transformation. And I've got a shout out here to Anne Marie Tosse. She is our lead author of this beautiful book. That is also her beautiful photo on the cover. You don't, you, not just anybody raises their hand to lead a project like this. And Anne Marie, you had a big vision and mission for this book. I have a lot of gratitude to you for gathering around you this stellar group of experts to talk about clean living. Like, what does that even mean? We're going to have a really great discussion about that today. And I thank you for the mission you had about this. So I've got some pretty cool people in my Zoom room today. Tina Steppen is a coach, facilitator, recovering people pleaser, aren't we all? And founder of Inner Harmony Insights, helping others discover who they are and reconnect with their own possibilities beyond the stories the past has written about them. Because while the past may shape us, it does not need to define what comes next. You guys are going to hear more about that in a couple of minutes here. Dr. Oliver T. Reed, he's turning books into brands and authors into industry authorities through strategic messaging and marketing. Welcome to both of you. Dr. Reed, I want to kind of start the party off with you today. Give me the why behind this beautiful chapter that you wrote.
Oh man, the why behind this chapter came from years of self-inflicted thoughts that were words that I was kind of eating on. So my chapter is chapter 13, eating invisible food, the food that broke my plate, and also life after suicide. So I actually fed on things. My why was I fed on things that were not productive, that were toxic, that were evasive, and that were silent. And sometimes we eat in silence. And when you think about clean eating, we typically think about what we eat dietarily or what we, don't eat the fast food, eat the correct carbs, or make sure you're balancing a balanced diet. But we don't look at words as one of the most hidden fruits that sometimes we eat on, and we are what we eat. So for years, I was eating away at myself, allowing life and what I thought, self-thought, to eat away at me, and it broke my plate. It really broke me down as a 19-year-old person, and that was my why. I wanted to share with the reader, share with people that will pick this book up, that clean eating is also things that we say to ourselves, our mind, emotionally, spiritually, and that we can eat in the dark. And in that time, what you eat in the dark will also come to light later on. That is my why. I wanted to encourage those who are doing that in secret.
Was it primarily the self talk, or did you also find that the inner circle wasn't quite the right inner circle in terms of those messages? Like, I'm sure it was a combo, but tell me more about that.
Yeah, it was
Mm.
mostly my inner circle. Everybody around me as a young kid, I was spiritually gifted. And that means I had these spiritual intuitions, these journey, I like to say, with the divine creator that people saw on the outside. So they saw me as this young man who's had a pleasant spirit and that never dealt with the abuse of a child. As a child, being turned upside down by my stepfather, beaten endlessly a lot of times, and I was just strong and funny and the life of the party, high school popularity was my thing. So I hid myself in my work, even as a young kid. So was able to assimilate. And so everybody didn't know that I was screaming with my mouth closed. So it was a combination of my thoughts I couldn't express, almost like being mentally, spiritually constipated. and producing an image of me that everybody loved. That was the strong guy. That was the fun guy, the athlete at the time. And so being around that crowd, it was no room for vulnerability or transparency growing up in the inner city project. It was, for lack of a better word or phrase, dog eat dog, right? It was that type of environment. So eventually, I never knew anything about depression or anything else, so I couldn't share openly. I could only show one side of me.
I want to ask you one more question about this. Do you remember the turning point?
Yeah, it was the turning point came when I couldn't do it anymore. When I couldn't no longer, freshman year in college at the time, missing 40 days of that semester. So basically all of it because I couldn't get out of bed. I'm crying. I'm looking to my roommate's looking like, why are you not going to class? I didn't know what that was. And on Christmas Day, 1995, I attempted suicide. And that was the breaking point. That's what broke my plate. And sometimes it was the critical components of I couldn't do it anymore. And what was on the inside and what I was eating almost kind of vomited emotionally, mentally, and had the breakdown. That was my turning point. And I realized that I am carrying a lot of things that I don't need to carry, and I don't need to carry it alone.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's a lesson I think a lot of people learn. Dr. Reed, I'm so grateful to you for sharing your beautiful story. And these chapters are they've included a practice, you guys. And so you're going to want to read Dr. Reed's chapter. You're going to want to carry on in that journey with him because then they're going to gift you with a practice in the second part of the chapter. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple of minutes. Um, okay, Tina, I'm going to move to you. I want to hear your why.
Oh, my why. I chose this, sorry, right off the hop here. For years, I was searching for a way to understand who I was. Beyond the story of survival kind of started with me looking back over my lifetime and knowing I came from a very dysfunctional background. I came from a broken family. I came from abuse in all formats. And without getting into any details, that kind of followed me through my life. That followed me into raising children as a single mom. It followed me into having to adopt out a child. um, it followed me through standing alone, even when I was in the crowd. It followed me into addiction. Um, and when my daughter was born, when my second daughter was born, I began searching for a way to understand who I was. Everybody kept telling me, you just need to learn to be happy. You want to raise this kid well. Um, you know, who are you who are you at your soul level? And I didn't have a clue. Happiness was an illusion for me. Life was a step by step. You just had to get through your day. Every story written about me, for me, it drugged me down. The depression, the anxiety, the paranoia. And so I started on a personal journey and I dove into everything I could find. I was looking at massage, reflexology, Reiki, anything that would help me feel better. But I still hadn't gotten to the core of who I was. I was a people pleaser. I was a yes, ma'am. Um, the story, I was looking for ways to connect everything that I had learned so it made sense to me. And the chapter shares a small piece of that journey. My chapter is Beyond the Story of Survival. You're more than the stories that shaped you. It's chapter 9. And I finally came to a tool that helped me put all the pieces together. It helped me stop looking at what had happened in my life and started showing me a pathway that made sense, felt good, brought all of the pieces of all of my personal development together and helped me make sense of it. And I live in the world of neurodivergency. I know many people that are autistic, many people that are ADHD, PTSD, the length goes on. And I've discovered that a lot of healing modalities, they're wonderful, they're useful, they're helpful, but it still didn't answer the question of who we are. And then I discovered numerology and I became obsessed. It showed me a pathway. It showed me a way to support myself when the world was going nuts around me. And that's inbred. That's part of what I bring forward in my work now. Let's get to the bottom line of who you are at a soul level, what feels good, and then start intentionally building your story forward. And I love it. I love it when people wake up and go, oh, hey, that makes so much sense.
Well, I have a thank you to you as well. Really thinking about what this book is, you guys, my gratitude is that you took on my challenge of putting that vulnerable story in the book. And Tina's master teachings are in here too, right? So she teased you a little bit with her some of her tools and numerology and telling you a little bit about her journey. So you're gonna have to read the chapter to get the rest, you guys. But just wait until you get to those practice sections where I challenged our authors to give you an experience to walk you through it. And that's what's going to be so much fun as you pick up the book and you start to practice and you're resonating with these beautiful authors today as you're hearing their stories. So Tina, thank you for yours as well. So I don't always write in the books that we publish, but this time I did. And I have, I think it's chapter 14. I think if I'm remembering my number correctly, but I wrote a chapter called Empowered Mindset Mastery, Curated Thinking for Dream Life Creation. And my quick why is, for me, the mindset has been everything. And the awareness journey to bring me to a place where I can live my moments in awareness, right? And if I had to change the word mindful, I would change it to bodyful. So my entire career as a holistic physical therapist, my dedication to the mind, body, soul, spirit healing journey has been about how do we connect into this feeling body, this sensing body, and how do we set our mind, our thoughts, our beliefs, and then our behaviors, our actions from that foundation, right? It's an incredibly exciting topic to me. And I also have a really cool scene about my car in this chapter that you guys are going to have to read. Okay. I'm not going to tell you anything else. I love writing about my car. So let's get into this question number 2. Tina, I'm going to start with you. Clean living. Oh my gosh, this topic. This is such a big topic. It means many things to many people. What does clean living mean to you, Tina?
Plain living for me isn't about perfection. It's about living in alignment with who you are instead of who you've learned to be. Um, it's about creating um, enough awareness to recognize what feels true and what feels good to you. It's about trusting yourself a little more each day. It's about um, just yeah, making the choices that reflect the life you want to create and having enough confidence to do it regardless of what the world says around you.
I love the way you kicked that answer off. Um, okay, I'm gonna add to it clean living. It's such a big topic, and actually, Dr. Reed touched on it earlier. Like everyone thinks it's about eating food, eat it like food or drink. And of course, clean living is about a lot of different things. It's about our environment. Of course, if we went down the rabbit hole of talking about plastics right now, we'd be here for 5 more hours, like it's everything. But my story about it is that when I realized that I was cleaning and clearing this sacred vessel, my mind, my thoughts, my self-talk, my food, my environment, that once that practice was at a certain particular level, I was channeling messages from the universe. Like, this is a sacred place we live in every day, this body mind. And so, clean living for me was when I was getting to a point of clearing that enough that some pretty magical things were happening. And so I thought, this is about a connection to something way bigger than me. I better take care of this in all of the different ways. Dr. Reed, how about you? What does clean living mean to you? You touched on it already a little bit.
Yeah, clean living is, I agree with everything that's been said. It's really a lifestyle. But I would say before it's a lifestyle, it has to be a mindset. And it also has to be where you tried and failed and tried and failed. You're constantly practicing. I love the way in the book we talk about practice. You're constantly implementing it because what was clean at one level is no longer clean in the next level a lot of times. I remember growing up where they told us drink your milk. Drink your milk. Milk does the body good. It's nutritious. Nowadays we have probably, I don't know, umpteen, I'll say that word, making that up. There's several different brands of milk. Almond milk, soy milk, it's just don't drink milk at all, right? And so from that standpoint, if you get caught up in the he said, she said, professionalism or scientific, you then find yourself chasing things that impossible, sometimes shadows. Now you can drink too much water. And so from that standpoint, it's really getting a mindset in. I talk about in my chapter the indirect effect of what eating is. So when I was going through depression, I was eating a certain way. Where at an age now that I am now, I'm still some of those things are still been benefactors of my what I learned the patterns to eat, right? But it wasn't just that I was choosing the food to eat just because I was hungry. I wanted them. Psychological, they brought comfort to me, was then brought a behavior pattern, was then brought a health pattern. And so looking at the clean eating is the mental, spiritual, all of those components, and understanding also what's clean for you, what really works for you. Almost in the words of a famous guy that I love is writing Shakespeare, to thine own self be true, right? And I think that there are some things that have mentors and people that can gauge you and help you. But at the end of the day, if you're chasing shadows, you find yourself always trying to find somebody else's cookbook, what else, somebody else's recipe for your life, and you end up being empty, like I was at 19. So finding what works for you is really what's clean, and also, doing your research and studying, but also knowing what works for you is my number one pet peeve.
All right, guys, I want to talk about these practice sections because, I mean, you already heard me talk about it a couple of times. I get excited about this part of the book because you all are master teachers and you've been doing what you've been doing for a minute, and you have such gifts to give. And so I want to kind of finish today on this idea of what you think the most important thing is about that for your particular chapter. You both have probably hundreds of tools and practices and things that you draw from every day, but I'm like, pick one and put it in there. Just give me one. If I was going to talk about the most important thing I want people to know about an empowered mindset, I would sum it up like this: it starts with awareness and a pause. And from that place, you can change your life. So this feels like big potato stuff to me. And my practice is all about practicing that empowered mindset. Dr. Reed, what's the most important thing you want us to know about eating that invisible food?
Yeah, it's, we always say practice makes perfect. And I'm gonna go backwards with the practice. I think the practice was amazing in the chapter, but practice makes perfect doesn't a lot of times win championships. I'll give a sports analogy. We had Michael Jordan, who was one of the greatest players, I think, still the greatest player that ever played basketball. But Michael Jordan practiced harder than anyone, but he never won a championship. So he found a wing person, somebody that he could walk with. So I always say the process makes perfect. So in the chapter, I talk about going through the process rather than just practicing. And that process is a breakdown of who you are. A lot of times facing the trauma, being able to become fearless, facing the fear, and being able to understand letting that wave take you out at sea instead of fighting against the wave. And you have so much opportunity to see yourself clearly as you're processed, as you are actually allowed to be broken, allowed to heal, allowed to be angry, allowed to be frustrated, allowed to feel good, whatever it is that comes up, and not feed yourself this false sense of perfection.
Mm, thank you for that. It's powerful. It's a powerful thoughts about our thoughts. Those are really, this stuff is life changing, you guys. This is big potato stuff. I hope you will pause and rewind and listen to that one more time slowly, right? Um, Tina, we're going to wrap this up with you. What's the most important thing you want people to know about the fact that you're more than the stories that shaped you?
Um, well, I hope people come away realizing that this isn't just a chapter just about numerology. It's a chapter about self-discovery. My hope is that readers come away feeling a little bit more curious about who they are and the possibilities that can become available when we truly begin to understand ourselves, regardless of what the world has taught us to believe about ourselves. We were all born with strengths, gifts, possibilities, but life experiences, traumas, conditioning, other people's beliefs, and sometimes even that neurodivergent title can make it difficult to recognize what our bottom line strengths and gifts are. Um, I'm all about reconnecting people, helping people reconnect with what's been there all along, and helping them learn to move forward from it more intentionally.
I love it, Tina. Thank you. Probably one of the biggest questions of life, right? Who are we? Who
Mhm.
am I? I've done that question in my journals multiple times. Tina's also making me think of a documentary I watched just this past week called Illusion, and they were really hot on the number
Mhm.
12. So I might have to do a sidebar with you later on the number 12. Tina, Dr. Reed, thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with everyone. You guys, this is way more than a book. This is a generous community of experts who would love if you reached out and asked a question. Maybe you want to carry on today's conversation. I've got them both hooked up down below with their websites. Please go click and explore. Check out what they're doing, the projects they're working on, the way that they work with clients. You both are amazing humans doing really amazing work in the world. And of course, we would love it if you go grab your copy of this beautiful book. I've got the link below for you for that as well today. And lastly, today, you guys remember your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. And so it is time to be brave. See you next time, everyone.